Going to live stream the meeting. And I've never done it on the one laptop before, so I have to make sure I've got the right.
I bet it's live. I bet we're live.
It's live. Yeah, I can see it. We are live, Mr. Legrand.
What's up? How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, man. How are you?
Good. How are the legs feeling today?
Do you know what? They're worryingly okay, I have to say.
Yeah.
I've had a nice rest day today, so yeah, they actually feel, dare I say it, all right. I guess the training has helped, and that's made a big difference. That I kind of got that right. I guess that's nice and reassuring to know that I must have got one bit of it right. But that's not to say that they've been easy days. Every day's been difficult and challenging and hard work. But yeah, I have to say I've been quite chuffed to how they've stood up. Well, literally.
Yeah. And I actually think that you might be feeling good this week, which seems absolutely counterintuitive, but there is a bit of training effect to the past 2 weeks of the work, the work that you've done. Yeah. And you might be dropping some of your friends and colleagues that are there to help you. You're going to be putting the hurt on those guys, which would be quite entertaining for us.
Yeah, there may have been a few that struggled this last week, but I wouldn't say that was anything negative. That was
oh yeah,
that's just, everyone's slightly different, aren't they? And it's been a really interesting experience, actually, just riding with lots of different people. And just seeing. Oh, hang on. So here's a couple of comments already, right? So Jenny, who I'll talk to you about Jenny in a minute, but she said she can hear us loud and clear.
Excellent.
And Ian's just said, "You destroyed me with your strong legs on Friday."
It's funny, 3 week, this is intense 3 weeks. I'd actually like to see what you could do in a little time trial or something like that, some sort of race type scenario when this is all over. And I know you're probably just going to rest, but you could hop in something.
Yeah, no, that kind of is the plan, actually. What I'd really like to do is start focusing on strength and intensity work on the bike, drop the sort of duration, because I think the base stuff is done now. I've done like 6 months of base training. So so then, and just see what impact that will have to team. I can drop, by the end of the season, say September, October, if I can get maybe a 10 in or something, I'd really like to see what I could do over a 10-mile time trial, dropping the weight a bit and just upping the intensity. Just see.
I don't even know if we need to worry about the weight so much, just because it'll be a flat TT, and you're strong, and you need to keep calories up for the work that you're going to be doing. I think that you might just see what you can do and go for it. If you could find something before October, I think that would be ideal, just because I think you're going to be really strong in August. So.
Yeah, I think so. You might be right there. The legs do feel good. I was going to say about one thing I was going to talk about today. I'm a little bit behind on the videos at the minute, because where I am is really the internet's not good enough. So I'm going to try and catch up with the videos over the next couple of days. But the day before yesterday, now what would that have been? Stage 14.
Yep.
We went out over the military road that I've made a video about before, over Tirabad, which was great, and that was fantastic. So we were staying in this house at the time with my in-laws, my boys, and my wife. So everyone was here. They've all gone now, so it's just me here for one night, and then I'm moving to another place for a couple of nights. But we, so that day, my father-in-law was riding with me and a guy called Stefan. So we went up over the military road, and we did, I think by the time you come over the top of the military road, it's kind of like 700 or 800 meters of climbing in total in about the first 20K. So it's pretty lumpy. And so normally up there, right, every time I've ridden it before, I've maybe come across a tank or maybe a couple of troops kind of training up there. But this time there was gunfire all around on all the ranges, and then there was also a rally. So we were being overtaken by rally cars and Subarus kind of going flying past. It was really odd, a very odd start to the day. So anyway, we did that, and it was good fun, and the weather was ace, and the three of us were riding, and then we came down the other side, and you head back into the town that we start in, only to go out again and come back. So it's like a big figure eight, and in the middle is this start town. And as we were coming down this sort of 14, 15 kilometer descent, Stefan gets a puncture and he's got tubeless, and it didn't seal, like the sealant just didn't catch. But we were about 2 miles away from the town where he parked his car. So he just said, look, I'll just keep stopping and pumping the tire up and keep going and get back. And then, you know, I'll sack it off. So me and Rod rode together. And like I say, I've said many times, like Rod and I have ridden together lots. We know each other really well. And he's Becky's dad. So, you know, he's kind of invested in this too. And I think we maybe got to about 40 kilometers. And I just had this massive sense of humor failure. I just didn't want to be on the bike at all. I was ready just to get off. And you know, in my mind, I was thinking, oh, we had like 115, 116K to go, to do in total.
Yeah.
So I was like, we haven't even got halfway. My legs are shot. Like, I just felt really bad. I just didn't, like, it's the first time out of all the stages that I just didn't want to do anything at all. I just wanted to ride at like 10K an hour and just not talk to anyone, and just wanted to turn around and head back. And so Rod sort of sensed this and was kind of like, okay, look, let's just take it easy for a while, and you know, get some gels on board and stuff. And it sort of picked up again. And actually Stefan had got in his car and driven to about 80K in, and had parked up and kind of gave us some fuel, you know, some water and some gels, and gave me all his spare gels and stuff. And it suddenly dawned on me that the day before, I'd done the stage. It was a long stage again, about 115K. And then I'd had this problem with my bottom bracket that was creaking. So I took it to the Trek store really quickly, and they sorted it out. And then I had to drive for like 2.5 hours to get here. And when I got here, I had tea, but I'd skipped an entire meal. And that was absolutely 100% what the problem was.
Anytime you, I think it's one of those things. It's very interesting when you feel those lulls, and you can almost sense it's like, okay, is there negative self-talk? Is there this? Like, first things first, like check caloric intake. You know, like that's almost 9 times out of 10. Like that's the issue. You know, granted, like you're tired. You know, you're always tired, but like, you feel that mood dip a lot of times. That's just like a caloric deficit that you're starting to bonk, right? And it's good that you pinpointed it to a specific meal that you missed, because you're pretty good about those, like, you know, gels on the hour, or I don't remember if it was like gels on the half hour and food on the hour marker, and that seems to be working well for you. But you know, and it's good that it wasn't something else, right? Like, you know, something mechanical, and you're like putting out more watts than you need to be able to do the pace that you're hoping to do.
Well, you know, it was weird. I started sort of really, I had to dig really deep, like mentally had to dig really deep. And I was thinking about something. I might make a bigger video on this sometime down the line, but my brain was kind of thinking about when you do something, when you do a challenge, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it could be anything. It could be changing job, or moving house, or doing your first marathon, or whatever it is. It's like, you know, like a climbing rope is made up of loads of different strands, isn't it? So if you think about all those strands as being all the elements that need to be in place to like hold you up off the ground by this piece of rope. And so like the strands could be anything, like like food intake, training, could be the equipment, could be your planning, and all these, they all interweave into this thing. But at the core of it, there's like your main reason for doing it, like the sole reason for doing it. And so that might be something like losing weight, or proving to yourself that you can do it, or you know, maybe you hate your job and you want to change your life, whatever it is. The main reason is like the core fibers in the center. And if they're not really solid, like when all those other strands go, so in my case, when I was out on the bike, it was like, okay, the food thing snapped, like that strand snapped, and it took like a couple of others with it. It took like my sense of humor with it, and my motivation. And as they started to ping, like more and more of them started to ping, but right in the middle of it, I think if my reason for doing this wasn't as solid as it was, like the core reason wasn't solid, I think I'd have just climbed off there. Like that held it together. So it got me thinking about this, like if the core reason for doing something is kind of shallow and vacuous, like when those strands start to break, you see it all the time, don't you? Like with Iron Man, I said this time and time before, people enter an Iron Man and they train like crazy for like 18 months or 2 years. They do the Iron Man, and at the end of it, like 2 weeks later, you see their bike on eBay, and like they've had enough, and they put on like 4 stone, and you kind of go, the core of the rope wasn't like solid, like that's and it. Yeah, that's kind of what that's what I was thinking about for like 40 kilometers whilst I was trying to get my act together to get myself around this ride. Was like the middle bit is intact, like the main reason for doing it is there. So yeah,
but you got through it, and you got through, if that's been one of the hardest days, that's a good thing, right? Because you made it through that particular difficulty or that particular lull. And granted, you still have a week to go. There's going to be a couple more lulls or whatever, or maybe not. I mean, it could go smooth sailing the whole way, but more likely, you're going to have a couple more lulls. And it's good that you have that reliance on the overall mission of the project, which is, obviously, the charity. And I'm sure you feel like there's just no way, like you don't have a choice. You have to finish, like you have to do each of these stages. Like, I think you're good. I think you got it. Again, like you said, that core strand is so strong. I have no doubt in my mind. So
yeah, that's it, bottom line. And, I can now sort of understand that tipping point when people just go, enough, like I've had enough now. Like I was definitely there, but I had something. Like I've said previously, like it's not actually about me and the bike and the kilometers and everything else. It's about the fact that we've raised 12 grand for this charity.
You're up to 12.
Well. So here's another thing, right? So, I had a phone call from a friend of mine whose wife went through a similar thing, or is going through a similar thing to Bex. He's a good mate. Well, actually, Paul and Linda are good friends of both me and Bex, and so she's suffered with breast cancer as well, and had surgery and stuff. And Paul rang me the other day and just said, look, I want to do something, but I don't just want to sponsor like a stage, or I don't want to just put a lump sum in. So he said that whatever is in the pot when I finish stage 21, he's going to add 20% to. So, that's a huge amount. Like, so, I mean, at the time we were just under 10 grand. So obviously each pound is like worth £1.20. So I know that we will hit 12 grand now. I think we're at like 10,000, like 10,500 or something. So what I'm going to try and do is see if I can get close to 12,500 as I can, and that will mean that we'll raise 15. So, and that is what it's about. Like I added up the average speed the other day, and I think I've managed to do all the stages at just like a little over 25, like 25.2k an hour or something for across everything. And I was thinking, I'd really like to keep that up, but actually, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it takes me 6 hours to ride each of these stages from here on in. It'll just as long as I get them done, and that money keeps coming in, man.
Yep. So you've done some hilly stages. We haven't seen videos for that
no.
yet.
No.
How was it? I know those stages are hard.
Yeah. So Jenny, who's the first person that commented on the live chat. She came out with her husband Malcolm yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Which was like the second day of climbing. So the second day in the Pyrenees for the pros. So second day in the Beacons for me. And we went up this mountain called the Tumble, which is kind of notorious around here. I'd never ridden it before. I did it in a recon a couple of months ago. And Geraint Thomas had written in his book, he'd written this book about the best climbs in the world. He'd put the Tumble and he kind of made it sound all romantic and, it's this brutal Welsh climb and everything. And I went and did it on a recon with my friend Jonathan Bale, like 2 months ago or something. And it's just vile. There's literally nothing to like about it at all. So you come out of Abergavenny and you immediately, like it averages about 10% for the 5K. So it's, and there are bits where it goes up to like 14, 15%. and the road surface I'd say for like the first 3K is rutted to the point where like if you go around, there's this hairpin at the bottom, like all right at the bottom, and you go around this hairpin, and if you take it wide, you then can't even get over to the near side to let the traffic pass because it's so rutted that you can't get. It's just bad, and you keep climbing, and it's just trees, and you only really get to the top of the mountain where you can see a view at about 4K in. So you're just stuck in these trees, and you know what? The bottom line is I don't ever have to ride up it again. I'll probably never do it again. It's grim. And the descent isn't all that either because you come, the mountain's called the Blorange, and you come over the top and you kind of expect to get that sort of payoff of like a 4 or 5K descent, but you don't. You kind of come over the top and then like a kilometer and a half later, you're in the town. So you have to start slowing down. And it's fine because the descent is really long. It takes you down into the valley and all the way into Newport. So it is a long descent, but you're going through towns and villages. And so you don't get these, like tomorrow, I think tomorrow or the day after, I get to go up Black Mountain. And it's like the best climb. Like it's one of my favorite climbs. It's got a view right the way from the bottom. It's got an amazing view and switchbacks. And it's like a nice constant grade, and there are sheep on the road, and it's really quiet. I rode up it once, and I was the only bike rider to go up it all day, according to Strava. I couldn't, like, it was nuts. It was like the nicest day in the world, and no one had ridden up the mountain that day. And then you come over the other side, and there's these great sweeping. Like I'll ride that like 100 times. Compared to. So we've done the tumble. We did Tirabad Military Road the day before, which is lumpy. So yeah, tomorrow, I forget what the stage is tomorrow. I think it's the one that I had to design off I have never ridden any of it because I had to redesign it from scratch a couple of weeks back.
Okay.
And then there's the Queen stage, which is like 2,000 meters of climbing. So that goes up a couple of mountains. Yeah. So there's like 3 more days of climbing.
3 more days? I was thinking like 2 more days of climbing, but you're getting close.
3. Yeah, close. 3 days of climbing, one long stage that goes out to Glastonbury, like right the way through where the festival is. And then once I've done those 4 days, it's like a time trial and then just a ride into Bristol. So really there's only 4 more days, man. It's not much really.
Well, it's not much. I mean, there's still a lot of work. I mean, you have the hardest stage probably left, potentially.
No,
climbing wise.
Yeah, there is definitely. Yeah, that day that goes up Black Mountain is like the Queen stage.
It's gonna be beautiful.
It will be, yeah. And the weather's supposed to be really cool for the next couple of days. So Jenny and her husband came out, and they were absolute superstars. So they came out that day that we went up the tumble. They came out and saw us like 18K in, and like stopped at the side of the road. We rode past and said hi, and then they drove to the top of the tumble. And then they rode their bikes down and then rode up with us. So they had no warm up. Like they literally, they did such a great job. They came down and they just like, Jenny sat in front of me, Malcolm sat behind me. They said, listen to me swearing all the way up and just moaning, just really moaning the whole way, just being really like miserable about this climb because it's just, I don't like it. But she said in the chat, it was actually much nicer than I remember, but then I hadn't done the distance before. I don't think it's the distance before it. I just don't think it's a nice climb. Like I must be, maybe I'm committing like cycling sacrilege or something, man. Maybe I'm saying like
I don't think
is
so.
Like a rubbish.
You can have your own opinion. It's fair. You're riding a lot of hills right now, so you have a good feel for which ones are more attractive than others. And I agree with you, like road conditions are huge.
Yeah.
Give me like those perfect roads, and I don't care if it's steep or whatever, like with views that pay off, like that's great. Like that's what you want. So
yeah, I think that the road surface and the view and the gradient as well, like I don't mind riding up steep stuff. It's just that there's a pinch point, I think. Like I think for me, I really struggle when it kind of gets over like 6%. So 6 to 10%, I really struggle. Anything like 3 or 4%, I can actually. There's a weird thing with some climbs where I can ride faster than much lighter climbers. It must be like the sort of power. I don't know, man. There must be some kind of mathematics out there when the weight doesn't outweigh the power that I've got. So
Mhm.
there are some climbs that I'm absolutely fine on and I can just chug away on and ride quite strongly up. But the minute it kind of goes up to like 5-6%, I really struggle. But yeah, Ian's just said all climbs are rubbish. There was a climb. Um, he'll be able to correct me on this. I forget the name of it, but there was one climb that was really unexpected. Was it Ubley? I can't, Ian will have to put in the chat where it was coming out from. This was the first day, I think, after the last rest day, and it was just one of those climbs where you were putting all the effort in on your legs, but you were also having to push your handlebars down at the same time. It was so steep,
Yeah. Yep.
and that's just not nice. Like
No.
there's no need. That's completely unnecessary, isn't it? You know, to have to do that.
So you've had some bike troubles, or I mean, it sounds like bottom bracket. Bike's
Yeah,
been
no,
good.
yeah, no, bike's been fine actually. I think the really wet day, which I think was the last video I managed to get
Yep,
out when
it is.
we had really torrential rain, like rain I've never seen before, on a bike or otherwise. It was absolutely incredible. Like the roads were just flooded. You couldn't see the tarmac, and it was a real flash flood. They had real trouble. A couple of the villages that we normally ride through actually had proper floods, like 2 or 3
Yeah.
feet of water. So, and I think that just so on the new Modone, they've changed. Like Trek have finally unofficially kind of admitted that press fit or push
Yeah.
fit bottom brackets are rubbish, and we've
Yeah.
all known this for like 15 years.
Hmm.
And so they've replaced it with the T47. And I thought, well, maybe like 7,000 k, maybe it's had it, and that's a lot of riding, I guess, and maybe it's time it needed changing. And I rang up Heiko, the local bike shop that are great, and I rang them up, and I spoke to the guy who owns it, and he said, look, you probably want to try and get a bottom bracket in case it is that, and then we can look at it, and change it. So I rang Trek, and they just said, just bring it in, like we'll look at it now. So I whizzed it in, and their head mechanic Mikey just got it on the stand, and he took it off, and he said, "Look, the bottom bracket's great, but it's just like the surface, the contact points just needed re-greasing." So
Yeah.
so they just re-greased it, and it's I mean, I've not had a second, touch wood, man. Like I haven't had a second of problem with the bike, like not. But then I'd bloody hope not. It's like
Do you
buying a
change?
Ferrari.
Yeah. I mean, you change the tire chain, anything like that, like during the 3 weeks, or?
The tires I put on. I put the tires on 2 weeks before, and they're
Okay.
GP5000, so they'll see it through. The chain I changed over when I put the 34 on, so in the last rest day. So that's only been on a week, and the one before it had only been on it. It'd only done about 5,000 kilometers, I think, that chain. So
Are you cleaning the bike each day after after each
I
ride?
am. That's a bit sad, but mainly just to like keep track of it all and make sure it's okay. But
Well,
like
yeah,
some of it,
absolutely.
like not like a full clean, like just wiping it down and giving it. But every rest day, I've kind of washed it properly. And the chain, both chains, so they're different lengths. That's why I've got two different chains. So
Okay.
I've got a chain for the 32, and I've got a chain for the 34. And I waxed both of those some time ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I've just been every other day. I've been putting some of that, some of the True Tension all weather lube on it, which is just amazing. Like Adam Kerrin did that, the
Yeah, I need to
testing
try
on that
that.
stuff. Yeah, he like was like, this stuff is almost as good as wax. So so I've just been putting that on every other day, and it's been it's running silent. It's smooth changing. Just have to keep remembering to charge up the Di2.
Which is probably okay for, I mean, you probably could charge it once a week, maybe, or you could probably get away with it. You could probably make it all 3 weeks, but
I probably could. Yeah, I don't let it drop below 70%. I just make sure it's kind of like when it's 70%, I just plug it in for the night and it's fine.
yeah,
But everything's kind of like I think I kind of look at the pros and I kind of go, I know they're racing. I know that like the effort they're putting in is far higher, and obviously it's harder as well for them because they're racing, and they've got to think about stuff like riding this big group. which must be exhausting. Like that's something I've found quite a lot riding with loads of different people, is like the way they ride in a group is really interesting. So you
Yeah.
get some people, like when you're riding two abreast and there's a car back. So like the rule is always the near side person just maintains the speed and the person on the outside either goes in front or behind,
Yeah.
right? But some people will kind of like, if they're an experienced rider, they'll put like half a turn, and that's enough to kind of pull them in. And other riders will be like, "Oh, I've got to go," and then like, off they go, and they're like 200 meters up the road, and you're like, "You're gonna have to sit up and wait for me because I'm not gonna
Right.
put that effort into catch you." So, and people surging as well when you're trying to ride on their wheel, and they look back and they
Yeah.
see that you're on their wheel, and they're like, "Oh, obviously you're happy to go at this speed. I'll go a bit quicker." And you're thinking, "No, I'm actually really happy at that speed." Like, just so to think all that mental stuff, that's riding with like two or three people. Whereas with if you're in a
Huge
peloton of
pack.
like 180, man, like it
Yep.
must be exhausting. But then they don't have like, I've been the chef, I've been the soigneur,
Right.
I've been the bus driver, I've been like the press officer, like all
You're
of
doing
that
all the
stuff.
videos. That's a
Yeah, well,
lot of time.
I haven't in the last couple of days, and it's been quite nice, man, to not have to do the videos. But I'm going to have to sit down tonight and make 3 videos. Like I got the training plans for everyone to write for the people
Yeah.
that I coach, and then I've
Oh,
got to
wow.
make these 3 videos. So that's like I managed to grab half an hour. The place where I'm at has got a jacuzzi, so I went and sat in that for half an hour.
It's sad that you don't have the family there, but at the same time, it's going to be good for getting work done. So there's blessing in disguise.
There is, man, and that's the plan for the next couple of days. Is that when I go up to the place that I'm staying at, is called Black Mountain View, and out the window is this amazing. I mean, you can just see the beautiful mountain range out the back, and it's the people that run it, Heather and Andy. They're just the most amazing people. They're so lovely.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's ever over this way, kind of wants to do like a riding holiday, they should stay there, because like, Adam's got this workshop. He's a bike rider, so he's got a workshop with all the tools and area to clean your bike down. And
nice.
If your bike's clean, they don't mind you having it in the space. So they're just what Stefan calls good people. Like we were talking about this the other day. I think that's the thing that struck me the most, is that you're just surrounded by good people, and like whatever that might mean. Is they're not perfect. Like people, no one's perfect. I wouldn't. They're just good people. The core, like we were saying earlier, like the core of what they're doing is it's in a good place. And I'm kind of looking forward to kind of just riding and then driving back to the B&B, make the video, and just kind of just zone out a bit. But at the same time, I know I'm going to miss Bex and the boys, because it's kind of a big part of it. But when we finish this a week yesterday, on the Sunday, we should, it's all, we're going to be up. We're going to ride into Bristol and have a barbecue, and hopefully and have as many people as possible up there on bikes, and we'll do like a couple of laps of the park up there, and have a few beers and stuff, and just kind of draw a line under it all, really. So far so good, man. I think most of the issues that I've encountered so far have been in my head rather than in my legs, and I wasn't expecting that. Like, there've been 3 days, I'd say, where I've struggled, and my legs haven't been the problem. Don't get me wrong. Like yesterday when we went up the tumble, Nick and who was it rode? Nick and Dave. I got to the top and they were like, they'd been there for like 4 hours or something waiting for me, like they were asleep, and, just chilling. Honestly, I'm not going quickly up the hills at all. So it's not that, if I was doing that, if I was racing, I'd be in bits, man. Like I would be in pieces. So, I'm riding hard on the flat, and I'm descending as fast as I possibly can, but the climbs I'm doing like a touring bike rider,
I think that's smart. I think you want to save your legs.
Well, I do. I'm 100 kilos.
No, I'm just saying, like, save your legs. There's still more riding. If you hit one of those hills hard and you feel rough the next day, it's just not worth it.
No, I think so. And what's kind of cool is the second to last stage. So if you discount the last stage, because like it's irrelevant, because that's like a 70k, fun ride with as many people as I can get on that ride as possible, and we'll just have a laugh. The day before that is the last time trial, and it's 29k or something, I think, or is it 19k? I forget the distance, but it's short, and I'm just going to go and smash it. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
ride it until I'm probably going to throw up or something halfway around. Or
And
um,
yeah,
I've
I
got
don't think
no.
you'll have any ill effects from that at all. I mean, I think you can go hard and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. But yeah, it should be fun. So yeah, like I say, it's just these three days of climbing and then one long day, and then we're home and dry, man. So yeah, exciting. I didn't know. I think that's the thing is like now I know I can do it.
Yeah.
But I did. I really did. I didn't. And a lot of people I spoke to, I won't mention any names, but like there were 3 people that were like, "Mate, don't worry if you don't make it because like the money's there. Like the money's going to go to. No one's going to ask for their money back if you don't make it." And I know they were being nice and they were trying to kind of, but actually, what they were, genuinely, they were kind of like going, "Look, man, you know, even Mark Threlfall from GTM was like, I think what you're doing is mental. Like it's not." It's not like a sensible thing to try and do.
Yeah.
It's not like a training camp where it's like doing 3 back-to-back training camps.
Yeah.
And nobody really does that. But then I was thinking, oh, but there are guys that run training camps and they ride every day. And it's like, yeah, so it's really weird, like where it sits in this sphere of like, is it actually challenging? And it's like, that's when I really, it comes down to the individual, doesn't it? So like, is what I'm doing, like, would get somebody that runs a training camp in Mallorca find this challenging? No, they wouldn't find it challenging. Like they wouldn't, but I do. Like this has taken me 6 months to get to the point where I know I can do it. It's been 6 months of like not knowing whether I'm going to make it or not. So
I think it's the perfect balance where it's like feasible, very challenging, takes a lot of work, but doable.
Yeah, it is doable. Yeah. And now my brain's like, oh, I wonder if I could do the actual distance the pros are doing.
Yeah.
Like, is that possible? And I think
it would be a lot harder.
Hey, I'd be divorced for a start. Like, there's just, I think the amount of work I put into this is just, and a lot of it's, I'm pretty sure someone could have put in like a quarter of the effort and still pulled this off in terms of like the planning, but I'm not that kind of person. I like to know
I don't
what
think
I'm
you would
doing.
have wanted to do that.
No.
Yeah, doing the full would be a real interesting challenge. Like now you know a lot more than you did before you started,
Yeah.
so a lot of the work would be easier. But it's more time on the bike,
It is, yeah. That works out to be they roughly ride 100 miles a day.
Yep.
And you kind of go, oh, okay, 100 miles a day, but then you go, yeah, but they're racing again, and you kind of
Right.
go, well, what was so Mark Beaumont rode 100 miles a day in his first round the world attempt. The first time he broke the record. I forget how many days that was, like 100 and it was under 200 days anyway. But you kind of go, yeah, but he's ridden like nearly 200 days solid of 100 mile days, and there's another guy. There's another guy who did something random, like 106 miles, 106 days of 106 miles or something. And then there's Lachlan Morton, and then there's this other guy who's doing the same thing as Lachlan. I forget the guy's name, but there's another guy.
He started like he started like a week behind the tour, and he's like doing twice the tour route each day. I can't remember what his name is, Mark or Max or something like that.
That's the guy.
Yeah. He's doing this. He's doing 2 stages for every day.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is nuts, and like I say, you kind of then go, well, where is the challenge? Like, what is the challenge? When you get to that point where you're riding, I don't know, what was Mark Beaumont doing? He was doing 400k a day, wasn't he? So he was doing like 280 miles a day. And you go, that's got to just be mental. Like, of course, his body's going to break down and you've got to fuel it and you've got to get that bit right. But that's just chemistry. Like, that's just mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like keeping the bike going. It's like, oh, the bottom bracket's knackered, replace it. It's like, well, okay, are you getting the glycogen in? If you are, that's why he had Laura Penholt with him, who's the performance manager. Mm-hmm. And she was going, right, he's got a mountain day coming up where he's got to do 2,000 meters of climbing. So he's going to need to have this food at this point. So you've got somebody managing all that, but you haven't got anyone managing your head. Like, there's no control dials like, you can't take a gel for your head or anything like that. And that's, I think, that's like, there's a tipping point with any endurance. I don't think what I'm doing is ultra endurance, it's just endurance. But I think when you get into that ultra endurance, if you're doing 100 miles on the bike a day, which is like doing a marathon a day, that's, to me, that's getting into ultra endurance stuff. That just purely comes down to the head, man. Like, you know, I don't think I physically couldn't not ride 100 miles a day. It's just like physically, but mentally, could I spend 6-7 hours a day on the bike? And not
Yeah.
really. Like, four and a
That's a lot
half,
of time.
5 hours a day is my limit. It really is. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I've got too many demons in my head to they're going round. Like,
Or
I remember.
maybe you and I are both wrong, and like it just takes a little bit more training, and you know, like you build up that kind of mental endurance where it's like, you know, right now, if I ask you to go do 3.5 hours on the bike, you're like, yeah, no problem. But maybe a year from now, you're like, okay, now I'm asking you to do 5.5, 6 hours on the bike. You're like, yeah, no problem. Like mentally, maybe there's some
Yeah,
endurance to it as well.
I think
And
so. Mental endurance. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like,
I don't know the answer. I mean, it sounds
no, I
extremely
don't.
difficult, but it's also, you know, a year from now, it's possible for sure.
But I think you kind of come back to that core thing, like, why are you doing it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, so
Absolutely.
something popped up on my Facebook thing today that today last year I finished that 55k a day that
Yeah.
I'd done, and that felt like a challenge, being on the bike for like 2 to 2.5 hours a day,
Yep.
for 21 days, and I was like, oh man, I've got to do double that next year, like that, you know, and to the thought of doing double that, doing like 4.5, 5 hours a day every day, um, and now you kind of go, actually, it is quite doable.
Yeah.
Like, like you said, mental endurance builds up, but I think the core has to be there. That comes back to what we were saying right at the beginning. Like, if you're just doing it for the sake of doing, it depends what your motivation is, doesn't it? Like, how
Yep.
intrinsically motivated you are to do it, and you know, there's so much stuff that you could comment on in terms of intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. But like, I do wonder. You know, I see some things that some people do, and you kind of go, "Ah, yeah, I don't really know why you're doing that, like whether it's healthy or not." But yeah, it's a funny one. I've been to some weird places on this, and I remember chatting to an ultra endurance runner, like an ultra runner, on one of the ultras that I ran years ago. And so we ran, it was around here actually. So it was really hilly, and it was like 76 kilometers. The race was, and this guy that was camped next to me, he ran that and then ran it the loop again to collect all the signs for the organizers. So by the time, like, he wasn't that far behind me finishing, like, that's how quick he was. And I was chatting to him that night, and I was saying, like, what's your training like? And he's like, well, I'll quite often run like up to 200 miles a week, 100 miles to 200 miles a week, just because I run everywhere. Like, he runs to work,
Hmm.
you know, he gets up at 5 and runs to work. And I said, oh man, like, I think I said to the guy I was camping with, I said, he must be mad. Like, the guy must be bonkers. And he said, no, like, I wonder if it's the opposite of that. If you spend that much time on your own running, like, you must be the most sorted. You have so much time to process everything in your life and what you're doing. And yeah, I thought about it. When people sort of, they comment, they see people, I don't know, riding 400 kilometers in a day, and go, oh, you must be mad. And you kind of go, well, actually, maybe the opposite is true. Maybe they're the really sane ones. Like, you know, to have that opportunity to really get to the core of who you are and what you do and why you're doing it and what's important to you. And I think that's the thing I've got out of this, more than, for me personally, like, take
Yeah.
the money out of it, take all the other stuff out of it, the charities raised and everything. I've got that out of it. I've got to the point where I'm kind of going, I kind of think I know a little bit more about, you said it earlier, like, what am I doing with my life? You know, what am I doing with my YouTube channel? What am I doing? I kind of got a little bit closer to maybe knowing what that is. And I think I'm kind of driven by sort of picking new challenges that
Mm-hmm.
will really push me, and kind of, my dad said it when he was in the Royal Marines. He said it enabled him to discover physically and mentally much further than the boundaries he thought he had.
Yep.
That's what being in the armed forces meant to him, and I think I kind of get that now. I think I'm starting to really understand what he meant by the fact that, you know, day to day in normal life, we don't get that boundary pushing chance to do that
Mhm.
stuff. And I think I kind of need that in my life, actually, a little bit. Don't know where I'm going with this.
Oh, it sounds like you're going towards like, next year's challenge, which, you'll have to start thinking about. And I think you should
Oh,
start thinking about it like 2 weeks from now
I
and not
know.
now, but
I kind of know what I want to do.
yep.
I actually kind of do. I really do know what I want to do, and it might not be next year. It might have to wait until the year after because I think I might
Yeah.
need to work on it. But you know what I'd really like to do? I was gonna do a video on this, but maybe I'll tell you. I want to do Land's End to John O'Groats, but in the same way that Mark Beaumont rode around the world. So doing 4 hour blocks a day of 100K. So um, yeah, so you do 400K every day to get. It's about 1,200 kilometers, so you should be able to do it in roughly 3 days. I'd quite fancy trying to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a lot. That's a lot of training, I think, to get to the point where you can ride 3 lots of 400 kilometers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I probably need to wangle some swimming and running into what I'm doing as challenges as well, because, you know.
Whatever. Do what makes you happy, man. I mean, I think that the funny part about the YouTube stuff is you do feel pressured to whatever race or swim or whatever. And it's like, no, just do what makes you happy.
Yeah,
If it's
I'd love to.
biking,
I'd love to swim from Penarth to Clevedon. That's like one of the big swims.
yeah,
And it's challenging because our coast, the tides in our coast are really challenging. And I'd love to do that one day. I'd really love to do that one day. My friend Andy Wolf's just done it again, as part of his training for swimming Loch Ness, which he swum the channel. And now he's going to swim Loch Ness, and that's far more dangerous. Like, I think only
yeah.
12 people or something have ever done it, because
Oh,
it's not it's fresh water, so there's no
yeah.
buoyancy.
Buoyancy.
Yeah, and it's really cold. And so he's doing that soon, and yeah, so he's just like swum Penarth to Clevedon again. I look at that and go, that's like this. I think the challenge of doing the channel is massive. Like, it's huge, and it's so
Yeah.
risky. It's risky with the weather, and the pilot license costs like 3.5 grand, and yeah, it's huge. Whereas I think Penarth to Clevedon might be a good swim challenge. But I'd like to do that bike challenge. I think I'd like to try and see. I'd like to put myself in Mark Beaumont's shoes for, what he did for 78 days. I'd like to try and see what it's like for 3 days.
Yeah.
just because that guy, I find him remarkable, and what he did just so remarkable that I'd like to just kind of know a little bit more about what that's like to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, you have
Um,
time to explore like the concept and the ideas, and you've got time to kind of figure out what the next challenge is going to be. And so I think you're in a good spot right now
mm,
because you're feeling confident about this challenge, which in my mind is the coolest challenge of what you've kind of thought through. Even the
yeah.
ones that you mentioned, I still think that this one is like the most alluring, the coolest challenge. And it does feel like you got it at the cusp of your fingers here. It does feel very much,
I really hope so.
it
Yeah, I
feels
really hope
good.
so.
Things feel good right now. So
They do,
that's good.
yeah, yeah. They do. They really do. And Jenny's just written a really interesting point, actually,
Yeah.
here. That's a cool idea about saying about trying to match the time the pros do rather than the distance.
Oh,
Um, but actually, you know what? The times that each day that I've been riding have worked out to be
pretty close.
like roughly the same. It's quite interesting. Like, I'm 2/3 slower. Well, I'm riding at about 2/3 the speed they are. So, and Ian's put in that I should do the Decker Ironman, which I'm not going to do. He's training to do the Decker next year, which is, yeah, I'm never going to do that. In like, I'm mad, man, but I'm not that mad. Like, I'm never
Yeah.
going to do a Decker Ironman. That's just like an Ironman doesn't appeal to me. That was another thing I was going to do. So there was the triathlon challenges. I want to do. So I fancy doing the Land's End to John O'Groats in the style of Mark Beaumont, but I also want to do 10 sprint distances back to back in the same day. So,
Oh, wow.
and try and beat the Ironman cutoff. So try and get in under, I think they've changed it now, but it used to be 17 hours. Is that
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, obviously that works out to be 8 kilometers of swimming and 200 kilometers of bike riding and 50 kilometers of running. So it's, to me, that's what an Ironman should be made up of, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in terms of
It's a
distances.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like everything's equal there, isn't it? Rather than
Mhm.
like the swim is so disproportionate to like the
It's so
run.
bad.
It doesn't make sense. So I'd like to see also easily and quickly that I quite fancied the idea. So I could do, 10 back-to-back sprint distances. So maybe I'll do that next year. And then in training, try and get up to doing the 400K a day, and then maybe do the Lands Edge John Greats the year after. But I think that's the way, that's where I'm going, is like these kind of like quite unique challenges every year and try and do that. So yeah, man, that's where I'm at.
Sounds awesome. Well, it's fun for us, for all of us that get to watch.
Yeah, well, that's good for you guys. Yeah. I'm glad.
It's hard on you. It's hard for you, but great for us.
Yeah, but I enjoy watching what other people are doing as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's the creativity of it. That's the fun bit, and filming it and making finding the story in it all. And there's been a story every day. There's been something that's happened, or something someone said, or a thought that's crossed my mind, or a place I've gone through that's made me think about something, or and that's really that's really exciting and fun. But thanks again, man, for like doing this. I know,
absolutely.
I know it's during your working day, and your channel's like 6 times the size of mine. So to come and do this for me is hugely appreciated as ever. So
I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, and like I said, like inspiring all of us. Like for me, it makes me want to go get out right now on my bike and go ride. Like that's what it makes me want to do. And I appreciate that, because, there's all types of different motivation, and you're helping inspire and motivate all of us to go out and ride more, which is great. And you're doing it in such a way that raises money for such a good cause. So I appreciate that.
I got to be honest, I've had a rest day today, and I didn't go out on my bike today just because time, and I can't wait to get on it tomorrow. Like I can't wait to ride my bike tomorrow. It's just, I still feel like I did when I was 5 or 6 years old, and just go grab the bike out of the garage and just ride down the end of the road, and kind of, you feel like you're on another, in another world, like, that you've powered yourself to. And tomorrow's exciting. Tomorrow's a route I've never ridden it. I haven't reconned it. I've done nothing. Tomorrow is the only route that is a complete magical mystery tour, and I'm excited by that. And I apologize in advance to Matt and Steve, who are coming with me, in case it's diabolical. It could be awful, but we're in it together, man. And we'll enjoy every pedal stroke, I'm sure. So I'm just going to make sure I'm fueled. I'm going to go and eat some pasta, and make these videos and get my training plans done for everybody. So thanks ever so much, man. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. Best of luck.
Thanks, dude. And I'll speak to you, when all this is over.